The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, September 13th, 2021 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone join us for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So I am a guilty Catholic. I know one or two prayers, and the one I know is Hail Mary. I'm going to see if I still remember that. I might not remember it. At this time, welcome back, everybody. I'd like to say that we're in our last few weeks with some of the councillors here. We will know more about who is going to lead us for the next 4 years. But I want to say, for all of us, we have worked together, played together, laughed together, prayed together. And at this time, if everyone could appreciate, the tough job that we do and the blessings that we need. So I would say, dear Father, please bless this city. Please bless this council and the work that we do. Make it the people's work. Amen. Please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney? Here. Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderwoman Pendell-Charles?
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Present.
Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item of the agenda.
Approval of the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
This time I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Here.
All right. Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendell-Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
Is it too late to?
The next item on the agenda is ID 70-21, City Council Citation, Phyllis Adams.
And I will hand this over to Alderman Finlayson for the ceremonial. Mr. T,
Mr. Mayor,
can you
should
come?
we go down or?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll all go down, so.
Yeah. Do you have the original?
Do you have the citation with you?
I gave
I
her a
don't have
copy.
the original.
Okay.
It is with great pleasure that I call up Ms. Phyllis T. Adams for this City Council citation. Thank you. And I'll read it, and then I'm sure you'll want to recognize all of your team and supporters in the audience. This is the City of Annapolis City Council citation to Ms. Phyllis Adams. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we confer this City Council citation in recognition of your service as the founder and visionary behind the Annapolis Juneteenth Festival. In June of 2021, the celebration you envisioned was realized as a full weekend of events and activities. You began a year prior by assembling a team to help with financing, marketing, and organization. The plan to include a gala, a parade, the festival gathered steam over the months, collecting sponsors and talent. Word spread, and as the city began to emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, enthusiasm grew. People came from all corners to celebrate America's second Independence Day, right here in Annapolis. We sincerely thank you for all of your hard work to realize the event, and we look forward to future Juneteenth celebrations in our city. Signed under our hands and the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis, this 26th day of July, that was the original date we were planning it, and signed by Mayor Buckley and all 8 members of the Annapolis City Council. And I personally can't say thank you enough. The largest parade, the biggest celebration the city has seen, and we owe it all to you. So thank you, Ms. T.
I can't say thank you enough, and yes, I'm a crybaby, so charge it to the head and the heart. But I can't thank you enough for giving me this honor, and I truly appreciate it. But this honor does not belong just to me. I came up with the vision, God gave me the vision, and from that point on, all of our Juneteenth people, if you helped in any way, I'm asking you to please stand, because these are the ones that made it happen. These are just a few of the ones that made it happen. When I wanted to give up, when the money was tighter than pantyhose 2 sizes small, and the expenses was greater than the Taj Mahal, it was then that they pushed me, they kicked me, they dragged me, they refused to let me quit, and we went across that finish line. And there were over 2,000 people in the parade. There were close to 7,000 people at the festival, and no one believed it was gonna happen because we were just coming off of the pandemic. But they were the ones that made it happen, and my heart goes out to each one of them. I'm sorry for all the countless hours they put in, but I also say thank you. And get ready, because Juneteenth 2022 is already in effect. We're having the festival and the parade on June the 18th because we're not going to take away from Father's Day. And on June the 17th, we're going to have a VIP reception and gala. I hope to see every one of you there. And Kevin Simmons, thank you for all the prayers. Thank you for staying on the phone with me nonstop to make sure everything went as expected. To all of you, thank you. And to my husband, who put up with me for over a year, and we still ended up married after all of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
She also looked beautiful at the gala.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The ceremony item ID 203-21, City Council Citation, Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, LLC.
Excellent. Let's throw to Alderman Arnett. Come up with you.
Kate Fritz up from the Alliance for the Bay, and we will read the citation. Why don't you get in the middle between the mayor and I? Put my glasses on and see if I can
plug it up.
I know, I have. So, this is City of Annapolis City Council citation to the Alliance for the Bay. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in celebration of 50 years of successful advocacy and action to bring together communities, companies, conservationists to restore the lands and waters of the Chesapeake Bay. Since August 14, 1971, when you were known as the Citizens Program for the Chesapeake, you have worked towards a vision for clean streams and waters flowing through resilient landscapes cared for by people who live, work, and play in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We couldn't be more proud that since 2009, when we say we, you have been a neighbor in Eastport, actually a couple blocks away from my house. We congratulate you on this milestone half-century achievement and wish you many more years, I think many more half-centuries. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Any other older persons that want to support the Alliance for the Bay could please join us. This is their 50th year.
As a member of LGAG.
You gotta shout out, you gotta shout out.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm sorry.
Do you want to make some remarks?
I do, yes.
Do you need a microphone?
Probably not.
Okay.
Project enough here.
It is being televised, so.
So thank you so much for the honor today with the citation in honor of our 50th anniversary. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Kate Fritz, and I have the honor of serving as the CEO of the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay. I've certainly not served in that role for the last 50 years. I've been here for the last 4 years, but I've been able to ride on the great success of the work of the organization over that time. So the Alliance has been focused on bringing together communities, companies, and conservationists to restore the lands and waters of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Here in the city of Annapolis, we have partnered on so much together. We have helped coordinate Project Clean Stream events throughout our Eastport community to help beautify our community by picking up trash and cleaning up our waterways. We've helped support local watershed groups such as the Spa Creek Conservancy, Severn River Association, and Annapolis Green through their own local stream cleanup efforts. Through our Riverwise congregation programs, we've helped install stormwater projects, both big and small, on properties like Mount Moriah AME Church, John Wesley United Methodist Church, and at St. Luke's Episcopal Church. We've engaged local government officials through our work with the Local Government Advisory Committee, known as LGAC, which has had many esteemed City of Annapolis officials, including former Mayor Ellen Moyer, and of course, Alderwoman Finlayson still sits on LGAC today. And now in our little corner, the gateway, what I like to think of as the gateway to Eastport, we are acting as a demonstration site for our neighborhood to learn about native plants, how rain barrels on the end of your downspouts can help benefit our Chesapeake Bay, and soon we will have a little free library in partnership with the Rotary on our corner to provide educational resources for our community. The City of Annapolis sits literally at the heart of the Chesapeake and has led the way on so many environmental and Chesapeake Bay-related policy issues that have been replicated throughout the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Annapolis is one of the first cities to have a stormwater utility fee before it was popular and then unpopular to have them. It has some very progressive forest conservation laws and has been a model for other jurisdictions on issues such as the no discharge zone. So the Alliance, we moved our offices to Annapolis from Baltimore in 2009, and we knew we would find a welcoming home here in the city, and your partnership continues to prove that welcoming home to us for cleaner rivers and streams to the Chesapeake. So thank you for welcoming us, and thank you for continuing to partner with us across many different opportunities. And I'd be remiss as the CEO if I didn't mention to invite you all to join us in our 50th anniversary celebration at our large fundraiser coming up on September 23rd at 7 p.m. It's a virtual event. You can learn more at our website at allianceforthebay.org. So thank you all. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Petition reports and communications. Beginning with the first item, report of the Charter Revision Commission.
All right, can we get people up here from with the report for?
Well, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, we have provided that to the council as attorney for the commission. I am formally submitting that to the council on the record, but we have submitted it to you and the council earlier today.
Okay, great. Then we will move on to the next thing, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Update from the mayor.
Mr. Mayor, could we at least thank the commission? It looks like they've done a lot of good work here.
Yes, absolutely. Is anybody out there from the commission? Please stand up.
Eileen is on.
I don't think they're here today, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Savage.
Process question. I thought they were going to give a presentation. Are they going to give a presentation at a different meeting or committee or
I'm assuming it's at the work session, yeah.
work
Yes,
session? Okay.
the report is being presented to the council tonight, and there's going to be a work session scheduled for them to present to you.
And I also was under the impression they'd be here for us to thank them, but let's have a big round of applause for all the work that they've done. There's a lot of smart people on that, so we're very lucky to have them volunteer their time. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is update from the mayor.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Good evening. Our last meeting was at the end of July. I hope everyone had a little time to relax with family and friends or do a little campaigning. I was lucky to get some time with my family. As we moved through August, things seemed to get busier and busier, culminating with a devastating tornado in Parole on September 1. I want to say right up front, I'm so proud of our city staff. I'd like to thank our Office of Emergency Management Director Kevin Simmons, whose team were instrumental in mobilizing the city's response. In my office, Hillary Ravadovich and Erin Lee from the city manager's office stood up a resource center to give hands-on support to residents and connect them to resources. Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell-Charles showcased her leadership, and I think for a couple of days right after, she didn't seem to sleep at night, firing off emails to coordinate things at 3 a.m. And I'm sure it's because there was a couple of generators outside your window as well. Thankfully, nobody was injured or killed, and that we've spared the heartache of casualty on top of all the property loss. And we will rebuild. Annapolis is a resilient city. It is full of residents who step in when they are called to service. When Senator Sarah Elfreth's office helped to organize a cleanup, we had more than 100 people show up. For those who have to rebuild, the city is waiving permit fees for tornado damage for 1 year. Once your insurance has assessed the damage and your contractor is hired, please inform the permit office for expedition of your permits and service. There is a lot of love in this city, and I'm grateful for each and every person who came out to help, who donated, who worked to restore this historic community. We have a lot of work remaining, but I am awed by the outpouring and network of support. I think Annapolis should give itself a round of applause. So our children are back at school, many for the first time since the shutdown in March of 2020. I know that most of the kids are happy to be back with their friends in a traditional learning environment. And I think most of the parents are happy too. I know I am. I want to thank Annapolis Parks and Recreation, One Annapolis, and Annapolis Police for the camps they ran not only throughout the pandemic, but over this summer. I'm grateful to all the groups who partnered to get children sailing, fishing, using technology, enhancing sports, and other skills. I also want to tell everyone that Annapolis Department of Transportation is playing a part in an interim plan to get all our kids bused at this time where the school district does not have enough drivers. We've been involved in the planning and offered bus assets and drivers. A few weeks ago, the city and the county hosted a visit with the United States Senator Chris Van Allens. We talked infrastructure and federal funding and our plans for City Dock. We are hoping to draw down some of this federal dollars for resiliency projects here in the city of Annapolis. But coming up first is our rebuild of the Hillman garage that is starting in January with the demolition of the existing structure, which is well beyond its service life. The City Dock Group, and particularly Eileen Fogarty, have been instrumental in their outreach, and I encourage you to check out any of their presentations to community groups, businesses, residents on the city's YouTube channel. The City Dock project is a wonderful example of our work with partners at the county, state, federal level, as well as nonprofits and the private sector. We will continue to seek out these partnerships. On Saturday, I was honored to participate in a wreath-laying ceremony to commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Annapolis Fire Department sent personnel to New York City in the aftermath of the terror attacks to assist in the recovery efforts. We continue to be grateful for their service and professionalism. At the event, I read a proclamation declaring 9/11 a day of service and remembrance in the city of Annapolis. And lastly, we see events and activities in the city coming back. In August, we hosted a celebration for Alex Haley's 100th birthday. The Caucus of African American Leaders held a meeting and a vaccination clinic at Bates Senior Center in honor of Robert Eads. We see Navy football back on the schedule. I got to attend the season opener of the Annapolis Symphony as well, with an outdoor concert at Quiet Waters Park on a beautiful night. All of these things are possible because Maryland has a high rate of vaccination. If you haven't been vaccinated, please take the shot. Of the 10 ICU patients at Anne Arundel Medical Center as of last week, 8 were on ventilators and all of them were unvaccinated. The vaccines are free, they prevent serious illness, they're available at clinics, pharmacies, grocery stores, and your doctor's office. We can continue our recovery with a meaningful focus on public health. Take the vaccine, wear your mask indoors when appropriate. Let's try to stay healthy as more people move indoors with the weather turning cooler. So thank you all for being here tonight. Let us get on with our meeting. Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. The next item is reports by committee.
Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met last Wednesday, September the 1st. You'll see the fruits of our work later on in the agenda. And we will be meeting again this coming Wednesday, where we're going to be taking up the bond issuance legislation, which is also on today's agenda.
Thank you. Alderman Payan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Audit Committee will be meeting next Monday at 8 o'clock. We have a number of items on our agenda. I regret to say we are still meeting remotely like all other non-council committees. However, we will be very busy, I can assure you. It appears that we have a nominee for a vacant position. I'm, with mixed emotions, will say we're sorry to be losing Julianne Donnelly. That's the bad news. The good news is she's coming to work in our finance department, and we're delighted to see that. We think that's a very positive addition to the finance staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules and City Government Committee met on September 7th and deliberated on two pieces of legislation. The first, O2121, which was public ethics, and we gave a favorable recommendation to it. And we began deliberation on O921, accessory dwelling units. We postponed final action until our next meeting. So we're going to hold a special meeting on September 30th, 3 o'clock here in council chambers. And Mr. Mayor, if I might take a point of personal privilege, you mentioned COVID shots. I would like to announce that the city has a series of PSAs targeting young people, 12 and above. And there's a group of about 6 or 8 young people between the ages of like 6 and 14 who are delivering the message to their friends, their colleagues, to please, please, please take the vaccine. Just as school is starting, we want all the kids to be vaccinated. And so it's a message going out dedicated straight to those kids. And so I thought we should announce that. So look for it. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, but it's our own kids saying to their friends, please take the shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Pendell Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the city, the mayor, the leadership. We have, in Ward 3, have been through a tough time the past 13 days. I mean, I cannot describe to you what it's been like, but on the good side of it, I've never seen a city or any entity mobilize as much as our city has, and all the partners that we have, including BGE, Red Cross, the list goes on and on and on. And I can't say enough about Mr. Gerald, who's our city manager as well. He's been the boots on the ground and the linkage to many of this. But I've got the best residents in Ward 3 and businesses. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I heard no complaints from the residents, whether it was outages, whether it's trees, whether they couldn't get to their homes, whether they couldn't park their cars. I did not hear any complaints at all. And what I've said over and over again, first of all, this was a miracle, literally a miracle that no one was hurt or killed. And that's how we roll in parole. Everybody I talk with, I've been walking the streets over and over and over again. It's the same tune. Nobody got hurt and no one was killed. And truly, that is a miracle. One of the churches actually has on their sign outside, ask God if you're looking for a miracle. And by golly, that sign was out there way before this happened, but I can't say enough. I really can, on behalf of the residents and businesses, thank you all so very, very much. Those who are out there and those who are here, it has not gone better. So today we were scheduled to have our Public Safety Committee meeting, but instead, Director Simmons and I were on a 6-hour tour of our entire ward with FEMA and MEMA to assess the damages and to see what can be done. We had the governor came out last Thursday, the day after, with the mayor, with the county executive, with our state officials to assess the damage as well. WUSA Channel 9 did a 35-minute YouTube on that as well. And I know Director Simmons's staff today took many pictures, but we were there with MEMA and FEMA and the Small Business Administration as well, and that went extremely well. So I'm very pleased and proud of what our city has done. So we did not have a meeting today, but we did have a meeting of sorts. The next meeting of our Public Safety Standing Committee will be on Monday, October 4th, 4 p.m. here in council chambers. And one announcement I want to make, as many of you all know, I work full-time for Anne Arundel County Public Schools as the school community liaison specialist. One of my duties is I'm part of the Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast Committee. I'm the representative for the school system. We had a meeting this morning, and I'm proud to say and congratulate Alderman Rob Savage, who will be receiving that award in January from the Alan Legum Award. And so I have been instructed by Mr. Jean on the committee, who's the chair, who has indicated that I'm supposed to spread the word to the council members as well as to everyone else to get the word out to participate. It will be virtual this year. So that's the edict out to everyone. Please participate. I don't believe there will be any tickets sold, but it will be totally virtual. But I personally would like to congratulate Alderman Savage as well on the work that he has done. Thank you so very much.
Any other reports? Alderman Gay?
Housing and Human Wealth, am I on? Okay, Housing and Human Wealth. Monday, Housing and Human Welfare Committee meet Monday, September the 20th at 6:30 p.m. I think we'll do a number of things related to housing, but the primary thing is just, we're inviting the hacker group. There's some issues with recreation. So we'll discuss that, as I think that falls under our realm. So that'll be our agenda.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is comments by the general public.
So during comments from the public may speak on any item not scheduled for public hearing tonight. Legislation that is scheduled for public hearing and will get a hearing is 01921 Development Application Procedures, 02721 Cellco Partnership, 02921 City Holiday Juneteenth, 03021 Market Space Lease Agreement, 03121 Issuance of General Obligation Bonds, 03321 Tree Removal on Private Property, and R2321 Tree Removal on Private Property Fines. We have some written testimony I'd like to read into the report. The first is from Robert Kinsler, 1823 Pendennis Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. Second, from Michael Farmer, 142 Prince George Street, Annapolis, Maryland. 3, my buddy Bill Kardash, 17 South Street, Annapolis, Maryland. 4, Earl Bradley, 940 Bay Forest Court, Annapolis, Maryland. And let's go to the sign-up sheet. Okay, we have people here to speak on the specifics that I talked about. We'll get to those ones. Did you have something?
Are we to sign up if you want to speak about?
Yeah, there's a sign-up sheet for the specific one that you want to speak on, or they're here, sorry.
That's right here, ma'am.
We'll bring this to you. Yeah.
It typically would be on that back desk, though.
So I can see the people here to talk on different things. So as we get to those individual public hearings, before we close them out, I'll make a request of anyone who'd like to come forward and speak that they might have missed signing up earlier on before 7. So on the general comments, I see no one else here to speak, so we will close out general comments from the public. Okay. So, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is appointments. The first item is AP 1121, the appointment of Leslie Xavier to the Historic Preservation Commission.
So this time entertain a motion to approve AP 1121.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Okay. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is consent calendar. Approval of journal proceedings, special minutes.
Are there any objections to items on the consent calendar?
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
I did just have a quick question about the consent calendar, Mr. Mayor.
Do I?
Yes, Alderman Gay? Yeah.
If it was over $25,000, I thought we agreed to add it to the consent calendar.
No, it's not gonna be on the consent calendar if it's over 50.
Oh, okay. So am I still able to ask about the supplemental appropriation, or?
Yeah, it's not on the consent calendar. Only two things are.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, business and miscellaneous. First item is supplemental appropriation, SA 322, grant fund, Mayor, Maryland Department of Health Revenue, state grant $100,000.
Can I get a motion for SA 3-22?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
No discussion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item is fund transfers. First item, FT 222.
It's SA.
Move approval.
SA 422.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think she skipped.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I skipped over. I thought we were doing. SA, this is another supplemental appropriation before we get to the FT. SA 422, Grant Fund Contingency Office of Emergency Management Department Revenue, transfer from general fund $65,000.
Could I get a motion for that, please?
So moved.
And a second. Alderman Gay?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification here, so we budgeted $94,000 in FY '22. And so far they've only received 65. Is that right? Jody, could you just break down what's happening here and how the additional 6,000 will be used for the opioid programs?
Okay, I can help you with the amounts. We had budgeted $94,000 in our grant fund for this program, but we were only awarded $35,000.
And so, so are we using the rest out of like general funds, or?
So we are asking to use to increase the total amount of the grant to $100,000 and make up that difference with the contingency monies from the general fund. Yes.
So I have two questions. One, you probably will be able to answer. The second, or the first one you might not, but the second definitely. My first is, why has the county only given us $35,000?
All right, so I did not process the grant application, so I'll refer you to these gentlemen here.
Thank you, Director Simmons.
So, good evening, everyone. Kevin Simmons, Director of Office of Emergency Management. Traditionally, the Health Department has given a block grant to the city of Annapolis for opioids and other illicit substances, and the amount of $35,000. We pushed for more, been unsuccessful. So that's all I can tell you.
And so what we're using out of the general fund to, make up for the lack of funding from the county, is that being used for programs like the Naptown anti-dope and stuff like that, or?
It's used for the 4 programs. It takes about $100,000 for us to have a robust program, and you and I have talked about that before. So basically, the programs are the Naptown Antidote No Harm, and that's in the mayor's office, and that's $25,000. Basically what they do is a lot of youth engagement sessions, community resource days, and public service announcement and webisodes. And Your Life Matters, that's the fire department, and that's $30,000. And I'll let the chief talk about that a little bit.
So the Your Life Matters program is basically hands-only CPR, the Narcan Leave Behind program, and that's basically done when we go out into the communities and at special events, but any request for that. But the basic cost of it is for us to be able to send somebody out there, because most of that's done on overtime.
Okay, so if this is passed tonight, when can they expect to have access to those funds so that they can start to get those programs going?
As soon as you can get purchase orders and
Awesome,
the work going.
awesome.
It'll be available immediately. We'll do the transfer as soon as we can.
That's great to hear. I'm excited that we are getting engaged and involved in this fight against opioid abuse again. With so much crap that was going on, it kind of got forgotten, but it's still an issue here. So I'm excited about that. Thank you very much.
So I want to tell you about the two other programs, because you heard about two of them that amounted to about $50,000. The other one is the Annapolis Police Department's Intervention and Prevention Program. That's $20,000. And basically, they use a licensed clinical professional counselor and a officer on a team concept, and they actually follow up on all overdoses, or as many as they can. They have a youth drug prevention program in the med box return. And finally, it's OD free, which is in the Office of Emergency Management. That's $25,000. The police was $20,000. And that's the website and the dashboard. That's fentanyl test strips, Narcan training and distribution, resources and supplies. We also hire an assistant project coordinator to keep things going. We all have other duties. So we have somebody come in at least once a week, maybe twice a week, just to concentrate on substance use disorder and keeping that program rolling. I'm sorry? They do work for me.
So do we have that person already?
No, I have a person in mind. We had a person up until July 1 when the money ran out, and that person had to go. So, and then we have a substance use disorder field support liaison. And that's a person out in the field, in the communities that give out the fentanyl strips, Narcan distribution for us, and just kind of our eyes and ears in the field.
And also, should probably add the Tuesdays, Alderman Finlayson, they're in your ward, right? On Tuesday? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, Tuesdays they're with you, and Thursdays they're with me?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday.
Okay, so yeah, Wednesdays, the wellness vehicle is in 4, and Thursdays it's in 6. Everybody should take advantage of that, and for constituents that are listening that may just walk on, it's completely, anonymous. You don't have to disclose too much personal information. And I think it's a great resource, in particular the buprenorphine.
Buprenorphine.
Exactly, and so I think, so I really appreciate it.
So, and the one thing I want everybody to know is that we work together as a group. Everybody, not everybody, but many people come to us and say, hey, look, you're working in a silo. OEM is doing something to the left. Police department is doing something on the right. Fire department is up center, and we're never together. However, we do work together. We have an opioid intervention team that meets every other month. Fire, police, mayor's office, OEM. So, and that's been going on for a couple of years, since 2017.
I would add really quickly, $35,000 is a drop in the bucket. And so any way that we can help, I know we've done resolutions, everything, but I just feel like the county should be at least giving us $100,000. I mean, but I guess we could push for that some other time.
Oh, Gavin.
Alderman Tierney?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Kevin, Director Simmons, for the, I believe you do it monthly, the update of the opioid epidemic and how you have all the data for each ward individually. And it's very enlightening. It was very enlightening to my constituents in Ward 1, realizing that this that the opioid epidemic doesn't discriminate. It is a citywide problem. I am disappointed that the grant, that we didn't get the grant from the state. Was the resolution attached to the grant request?
We actually did the grant way before the resolution, and we were hopeful that we would get that $100,000 from the state. And actually, Anne Arundel County only had one project, and that was Angel Trainer's Recovery House project, and they gave her like 200-something thousand, I think, which is a good project.
That's a good thing.
That's a good project.
Yeah.
But we didn't get anything
Yeah.
this time around.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first and a second on SA 3-22. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is fund transfers. First, FT 222, General Fund Contingency Account, Contingency Fund, $65,000 transfer.
So move.
Second?
Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is public hearings. Are starting with O-1921, Development Application Procedures for the purpose of providing for community benefit input in the review of proposed development applications.
So there is nobody set to speak on O-19-21. Is anybody present wanting to speak on this before we close the public hearing? Do you have someone coming in? Oh, just the audio? Okay. Okay, see no one here. I'd like to accept into the record the Planning Commission's findings dated August 23rd, 2021. Last call. Okay, I declare the public hearing on O-19-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next public hearing item is O-2720, Celco Partnership, doing business as a Verizon Wireless Lease Agreement.
No speakers. I see no one here to speak. Is there anyone here to speak on O-27-21? Okay. Nothing to read into the record. I declare the public hearing on O-27-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is O-2921, City Holidays, Juneteenth, for the purpose of designating Juneteenth National Independence Day as a city-paid holiday.
Now, there are a lot of people with Juneteenth T-shirts on.
They're gone.
But I don't see any of them here. Would anyone like to come forward and speak on this? Alderman Finlayson?
Mr. Mayor, if you would like public testimony, we could extend it, and I'll have all of those people send us testimony if you'd like.
I definitely got the message on that one. So I'm going to declare the public hearing on O-29-21 closed. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item for public hearing is O-3021, Market Space Lease Agreements.
Thank you. Okay, I know there are people here to speak on that. If you would like, step up to the microphone or the center table. Is that okay? Yeah. Yep. All right, if you could just state your names and addresses for the record and your business.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jody Danik. I'm with New Annapolis Market House.
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Black here. Address is 408 Narnia in Graysonville, Maryland, and I am the managing partner at Federal House Bar and Grill.
Kevin Havens, 359 Preston Field Lane, Severna Park. owner of McGarvey's.
Can I just check if McGarvey's are going to have wings for us tonight after the council meeting?
Hello, City Council and Mayor. Carl Warner, owner of Iron Rooster, 428 Manor Road, Arnold, Maryland, 21012.
All right, I'll hand it over to whoever's speaking for you guys.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. First off, thanks for having us and hearing what we have to say about the lease agreement at Market Space. You know, I want to touch on, and pardon me, I made some notes. I want to touch on a few items having to do with leasing that area on Market Space. It's the area that is between Middleton's Iron Rooster, Federal House, McGarvey's, and Market House. And a few just very important items that everyone needs to understand is number one is recovery. You know, obviously 18 months ago, the world came to an end. The city closed, the state closed, and the restaurant business and service industries were drastically impacted. You know, the wonderful thing that happened for us with the city of Annapolis is, and I speak for myself, and I've spoken to these guys before as well about this, honestly, without the swift movement from the city and the state of Maryland, I'm not really sure how many of us would still be sitting here as business owners. You know, as we got to late summer in the pandemic, allowing us to expand that outdoor seating was crucial to our survival. Getting it, you know, as it got to this time of the year in 2020, allowing us to tent those areas, to partially enclose those areas, to warm up those areas was also a crucial thing for us as restaurant owners. And I guess before I go any further than that, just, you know, from all of us here at the table, we truly do appreciate everything that everyone in the city has done for us. Because again, I'm not sure any of us would be business owners still without those things happening. Speaking of recovery, though, you know, the 2020 was a long year. The first few months of 2021 were long months. And to say that the businesses have recovered or the restaurants have recovered would not be an accurate statement. You know, it's going to take us the better part of the next 5 to 10 years, most likely, to recover completely from something like this. You know, we have had a reasonable amount of business come through the doors the last few months. But again, here we are coming into the colder time. We're going to be asking people potentially to come inside again. And, you know, none of us at this table know what's going to happen under that scenario. So again, not recovered. So what we're asking for here is again, crucial to survival. And especially being a centrally located area in the city, having us survive is important not only for us, but we believe for the city as well. Before I move on to anything else, just as far as financial impact goes, we also feel like the lease is likely to provide the city with funds that it wasn't being provided prior. The 17 or 19 parking places that we're going to occupy are pretty unlikely to have generated the revenue that the leases will, and we're hoping that the cities, you know, will be able to take those appropriations and use those for other wonderful programs, such as Mr. Simmons' programs. But however that gets appropriated. Before I let Jody or Kevin or Carl say anything as well, the second really big thing I would like to touch on tonight is just the fact that our guests, the visitors to the city of Annapolis, need, and would prefer to sit outside. And this really has nothing to do with the pandemic. I've been in business for 16 years at Federal House, and you know, on a beautiful afternoon, evening, whenever it is, the first 32 seats that always filled up at the restaurant were the 32 seats out on the sidewalk cafe. People walked inside because they had to wait an hour or an hour and a half to get an outdoor table, so they came inside so they could continue on their visit to the city. So I guess part of our pitch here as well is that it truly is, outdoor is truly where the visitor to the city would prefer to stay. They're coming inside because they are forced inside, and we're hoping to provide them a bunch of extra seats so that they can do exactly what they came into town to do, which is to sit outside, enjoy the city, look at the buildings, check out the water, people watch a little bit, and hopefully that moves our city further up the list of places to visit when they've got another weekend off or another day when they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Jody?
Sure. I'm going to go, and we'll it's mainly just testimony, but yeah.
Hi, Council. Jody Danek here. I just want to reiterate what Jeremy said. I'm sure Kevin's going to say the same thing, but thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity. And really, some of the steps that the city has taken, working with our businesses and all the businesses in the city, are why we're still standing and why we can still have a lot of hope for the future. So once again, thank you. The second thing I want to reiterate is I think that this is a cultural shift. People, because of COVID, but it may be even before COVID, people want to sit outside. We've been really successful with Dining Under the Stars and First Sundays up in on West Street. And, you know, it'll be 100 degrees in the middle of August, and my partner calls it eating the heat because there's nobody inside. They all want to sit outside. It's amazing. I want to be in air conditioning, but a lot of people don't. So especially with COVID and with the uncertainty that is probably going to face us for years. We're not through this. There is uncertainty. I predict that, you know, if this goes through and we are able to have this dining here on a permanent basis, it'll be full before the inside of our restaurants are full. And so it's really not adding too much to our bottom line necessarily. It's not like we're expanding exponentially, but it's allowing us to be able to serve customers where they want to be served. And it makes the city much more likable and enjoyable and a place that can be a center, like downtown can be the destination. So we're excited about it. And I guess you guys got it.
Yeah, Kevin Havens, McGarvey's. I really don't have much to add more than what these guys said. Just thank the council for considering this proposal.
And I guess I'm last man on the totem pole here, but I do want to make one point and elaborate a little bit more. Iron Rooster opens at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we have a line out the door at that stage in the game. By 9 o'clock on weekends, we probably have a 45-minute wait. And what we're seeing, and last weekend I sat out there because we're a little short on staff, and I took names onto our open table tablet. So I got to see the guests as they're coming through. And as they're returning, they're coming, and some of them have the cottage packages or Buddy's Place. So what's happening is by drawing more people into downtown Annapolis, and with us as example for wait, people are taking their 45 minutes and walking around town and shopping at some of the other places. So I think commerce as a whole is going to benefit from this happening for us. So again, I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit, give you a little bit of what we're seeing on our side. And thank you very much for your consideration, because from Iron Rooster's perspective, it's been a huge, huge benefit to us to be able to have the tables outside. Thanks again.
Thank you. So I was trying to keep you to 12 minutes there. Thank you so much.
Did we go over?
Alderman Gay had his hand up first, then Alderman Payon, then Alderman Arnett.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I think that generally this is well received, as you've mentioned. I think I've been to a couple of y'all spots. I don't know, maybe at night or something. But I think the issue is, and maybe this speaks more to a flaw that we've created, it's horrible for traffic. It really is. The circle is backed up ridiculous. You got people coming up making a right-hand turn and a do not enter, because otherwise they would have to go all the way up Main Street and around State and come down School, or they go up, what's the split by 152 Main? Francis, yeah. So or they take Francis up to the Say House, come around by Potato Valley. I do that frequently, actually, because I frequent both Potato Valley and Chipotle. But the thing is that it just creates unnecessary traffic. I mean, even coming down the street by Potato Valley, you got pedestrians just jumping where what's that store used to be called on the end right there? They just recently shut down. Fed House is right here. What's right across the street from Fed House? Yeah, you got people just walking right across there. So it's a sloppy layout. And so is that something that can be fixed by both the city and the individual business owners before a lease agreement is, officially signed? Or what's the plan for that? Because I can tell you it probably will only get worse. So are we just comfortable with the traffic, or are we going to fix a transit system that may help with that? Or what can we do to, ease that? It's not my ward, so I'll pass it off alderman courtesy, but I do drive through downtown as many of my constituents, and they hate sitting in it. And I get emails about it all the time. It's a mess.
So I think we have opened up Dock Street, so that's been an improvement to the flow, but I'll let the city manager talk about how we're going to
mention that. Thank you, Mayor. I was going to mention that too, but the other thing is that that's a notoriously bad area, even before we closed off Market Space. Market Space isn't a very active thoroughfare. So I think there's probably some impacts from a traffic perspective, but I think the bigger ones were when Dock Street was half closed. We had to circle around and go to Prince George. We'll certainly look at that. I think it helps when we have the crossing guards too, because the pedestrians really foul things up down there in the crosswalks too.
That does too, but even when you have the crossing guards, just like they were down there this weekend at the bottom of the circle. And what happens is, and the reason that I'm really not supporting this initiative to rebuild downtown and do all of this stuff is because everybody's scared to touch the circle or to throw in a light or whatever. I don't care if you shrink that circle to this big, there still will be traffic. And we have to address that. The crossing guards will stand up there and then it backs up all the way around the circle. You know what happens when you can't have movement in a circle? You shut down everything through Randall, and then you shut down everything to the back of the bridge. And so to say that we're going to look at it is one thing, but to actually do something about it is another. And I think we had a chance to with this City Dock master plan or whatever, the revitalization project that they did, but they failed to even address the circle, which is just, it's devastating how that paralyzes the city. And I think this has a lot to do with it. I love the restaurants. I frequent your places. I'm always at Market House for a glass of wine. Don't get me wrong, great businesses. I just am really concerned about how bad that will be moving forward.
Thank you. Alderman Payne was next, then Alderman Arnett, then Alderman Channelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this question, well, it can be addressed to any of you, but particularly the owner of the Iron Rooster. Sir, if you have half-hour, 45-minute wait when you open up in the morning, how's that? I mean, why would it take you 5 or 10 years to, get back to where you were? That's a phenomenal amount of people that are.
That's only on Saturdays and Sundays.
I've eaten there, and
sure,
it's a wonderful place. I really like going.
Sure.
But I'm just curious. I don't get that at all.
But honestly, that's during the summertime on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And the rest of the week we don't have a wait at all. So that's people coming into the city wanting to come to our place as a destination, which is bringing people into the city of Annapolis from our perspective.
Okay. Don't misunderstand. I think overall
I understand. No, I appreciate it.
Pretty good lease for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't really question that. I was pleased when I read the amount that is involved here, but that kind of struck me. Wait a minute, you got that many people waiting. Man, you're doing something wrong if it's that way.
I appreciate your thoughts and your candor, and like I said, from our perspective, it's just I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. I'm not going to tell you things that you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the actual truth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So who was next? Alderman Arnett was next, then Alderman Channelmeyer.
Mr. Mayor. So several points. I guess the question I would ask is, how do the non-restaurants in the area, how have they responded to this? Has this been good for them also, in terms of having all of that congregation of people that are walking?
It has been to this point. In in our little space that we're proposing this lease, there are no other, there's nothing but food and beverage in that corner. But in speaking to the vendors further down Market Space, as well as some of the ones, up at the first half of Main Street that I've had a chance to go in and talk to, they've indicated that the outdoor dining as a whole, not just in Market Space, but the outdoor dining as a whole has had a dramatic impact on how many folks are A, walking around, B, staying outside, and C, making plans to what stores they're going to hit as they finish up their meals. So as far as I know, I have not had anyone indicate anything negative as far as that particular question goes.
Yeah, I would suspect you're right that you have people there, they're dining, and then they go buy a ring at Zachary's. Makes sense to me.
Yes, Steve loves those days.
So I guess this is more a question for the mayor or Eileen Fogarty. This would mean continued loss of some parking spaces. So in the redo of the Hillman garage, will all of these additional spaces be covered with the new spaces we get in Hillman garage?
I can answer that. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So the existing garage is 425 spaces. The new garage is going to be 590. There's just over 100 spaces, I think is the number that's at City Dock. So it will easily be covered. We're talking about 17 spots, I think.
19
right. Spots. We added 2 towards the end. 19 spots. So it'll be covered at the new Hillman garage.
Okay, and the last question, and Mr. Mayor, you remember rebricking Main Street, and you had a plan for the Hopkins Plaza as well. Is this consistent with our thinking as we eventually get to the rebricking of Main Street?
I think there's still a lot of design to go into that. So while they work on the garage, I think that council will have input. And I'm sure a lot of us agree on the shrink in the circle or the controversial things that we've got around. But I think we have a great opportunity because we have a little bit of time to come up with a plan. And then when we re-brick Main Street, we can be open to new ideas, such as parklets, such as some greening of Main Street. I know that when I drive up Main Street on the weekends, we've created a town centre in the middle of Main Street that wasn't there before. And the potential for those people to use the retail around them is good, I think, just as Eastport. Well, we do. Okay, thank you. Alderman Shanelmar next. Thank you.
So I just want to point out one quick question and a couple comments. How many parking spaces were in that space before we put the outdoor dining in?
They're talking 17, I think.
So 19 spaces for car storage when they're not being used, which I don't know about you guys. I've personally never even been able to park there in the 10 years I've lived here. Some guys might have better luck than me. Or productive use of space that's helped a lot of local businesses and that has spilled over into other local businesses, helping them too. This is a very clear-cut answer on which way to go for this. And in regards to traffic, man, I've never seen the backed all the way up across the bridge traffic apocalypse you're talking about, bud. And we're trying to accommodate an area that was built before cars for cars. You can't do that. And what will help the traffic is if people go, oh, I'm sick of getting stuck in this, maybe instead of driving into downtown, I'll ride a bike into downtown, or I'll take another way into downtown, or take a bus. And that's how you deal with traffic issues. If we try to make it a throughfare, that's going to hurt it, because people are just going to cut through and be gone.
I think my colleague from Ward 5 makes great points, and that brings me to my next point is that, look, the reality is traffic is going to be traffic. You can sit up here and say people are going to bike over there all they want. And I don't know where you live at, but I live in Eastport, and I see the cars daily. So my next question is, look, if they're giving $150,000, this should be going straight to some sort of transportation fund, parking fund, or whatever. It should not hit the general fund. It shouldn't be used for other products. It should be used solely to enhance our transportation. you know, maybe even this is a good opportunity for the trial on the little electric things, getting people back and forth from the garages or whatever. What's the plan for these dollars?
General fund.
So yeah, really, we could put $150,000 in and do whatever we want with it instead of.
I definitely think we're with you, Alderman Gay, on that, designing that electric trolley. This is our opportunity to build the foundation for a microtransit system, and that will happen. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for your input. We appreciate your efforts, and thanks for keeping downtown vibrant. Okay.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Correction to my last answer, Alderman Gay. So it's going in the parking fund because it's displacing the parking.
Anybody else like to come forward and speak on O30-21? Sure. Okay, I declare the public hearing on O-30-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item for public hearing is O-31-21, issuance of general obligation bonds and bond attachment notes, bond anticipation notes.
Anybody signed up to speak on that? Would anybody like to come forward and speak on O-31-21? Okay. I declare the public hearing on O-31-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-33-21, tree removal on private property.
All right, Susan, this is your chance. Thank you for being here. Please come up onto the podium there and state your full name and address.
Thank you. My name is Susan Wheatley. I live at 159 Monticello Avenue here in Annapolis. I want to thank Alderman Savage for sending out an alert and asking for someone to come and speak. So I got that today. I believe it was today. And gave it a few minutes thought and wish I had had more time. But for those of you in the room, I suspect that you all live within the city of Annapolis. So I would encourage you to do what I did was I took my cell phone around my house and I looked from the inside out, starting upstairs. And out of my guest room window, like many blocks here in Annapolis, you have houses here, you have houses here, and they back up to each other. And then, of course, you have houses at the corners, which is where we are. So out of my guest room windows, I am looking into about 9 neighbors' backyards if there were no trees. So the beauty, honestly, I mean, people who know me know I always say I live in the city, but honestly, I really live in the woods because out of every window of my home, I don't see buildings, I see trees. The idea that those trees would come down, especially out of that window, would mean that the telephone poles and the 28, that's what I counted, wires that are running between the backyards in all of those houses would be exposed, and that would be the view. Out of the window that looks onto Brook Avenue, I just see trees. However, on a property that's going to be developed there are 18 trees. The majority of those are in a backyard. If those trees were to be removed, my view would be the parking garage at Garrett Place and the buildings, the commercial buildings. And so those trees offer me a buffer, again, where I feel like I'm living in a beautiful, wonderful place, and I do. Those trees also help to mitigate the sound that is coming off of the commercial roofs of the air conditioners, and also other neighbors' air conditioners. They also block the sound from Route 50, and I know that because I can hear that more in the wintertime. So these are trees in people's backyards, and we often just don't think about the impact that they have. If you look out my front window, the neighbor across the street from us, And Mayor, your street is right there, Stewart Street. So if I'm looking out my window to the left, I have a neighbor that when they vacated that property and turned it into rental, they cut down every darn tree on the property. And I have lived with that for 32 years. Behind them is a beautiful forest of trees, and they're all in those neighbors' backyards. If you look out my front windows, again on Stewart Street, we have a beautiful line of trees on Monticello Avenue as you're going down towards the water that happen to belong to a neighbor whose front of his house is on Stewart Street. So therefore, he could then take all those trees down the way that it stands now, I understand. If you drive down Amos Garrett Boulevard, starting at Stelly, all the way down to the water, there are 19 homes that back up to Amos Garrett. It is fully lined with trees that they can take down. So I'm sorry that I didn't have time today to go to everyone's neighborhood, because I tell you, I would have. But I'm going to ask you that you go to your own home and you take pictures out your windows and you look at what you have as far as the potential to lose. My mother is 99. She lives independently in Edgewater. She lives in a corner unit. Fully behind her are trees. It's a buffer. On the other side of the buffer is a commercial property. And every time I call my mother and I ask her what she's doing, she says, I am sitting in my room. She has 5 windows in her bedroom. I am sitting in the bedroom window here and I'm looking at the trees. So for those people who are shut-ins, elderly, children who live in community where there are no trees, it is a detriment to the quality of their life. I could, of course, go on and talk about things that you all know, how trees are important for the quality of air. We are all well aware of what removing trees does to the environment and the runoff. Personally, again, we lost a solid concrete porch 2.5 feet off the ground because of the runoff from the property of a neighbor. So I just had to come today to be that advocate. A few things I just want to say too. The trees in the city soften the light pollution. In the wintertime, when I put my head on my pillow, right through my front window, right in my eyeball, is the light at the end of Stewart. I also have a light at the corner of my property on my house. So I appreciate those trees that are there, for light pollution, for noise pollution, just for the quality of life, for the beauty. I invite you to come to my side yard where I have a massive tree at the bottom of Monticello, right there at Brook and Monticello. And that tree, I think, is one of the pride of the neighborhood. And it's not in my front yard. So the impacts on my own life could be a lot, but I'm not really the important one here. It's the rest of the constituents. It's the kids who, they need trees in their playgrounds, they need trees on their streets, they need trees in their yards. And I guess really, I'll just leave it at that. I had a lot more, but I just don't think it's going to make any difference beyond what I've already said. So I am here, and I hope that you will vote in favor of having some regulations to save our trees. Yes?
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you.
159 Monticello Avenue. Yeah.
Thank you.
I used to live in Eastport, lived on Adams Street, had lots of trees, loved it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. We have, can I just check to Kia, is Bob Gallagher coming in? No? Okay, we had him down potentially for some web testimony. No? Okay, written testimony. Can I read Written testimony from Bob Gallagher, 113 Sparview Avenue. Can we read that into the record? Anyone else present like to speak on this 03321? Thank you. I declare the public hearing on 03321 closed.
You're speaking on the next one. R23? I thought it was this one. No, you signed up on R23, not.
But no problems, you can come forward and speak on that one. Before I close it, please come forward. Yeah. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you for being here.
My name is Sandra Elwood. I live at 1420 Catlin Place in Ward 3 under Alderwoman Charles's ward. I come here today to talk to you about this legislation as it has a significant impact on my property because I happen to own almost an acre of land in Heritage, and more than half of that land is tree canopy, and fairly large tree canopy. I know that I've had several of you out to my home to look at my property, and one of the things I wanted to point to was, number one, as this is written in the current state, it is it's really not well written, and it's got a lot of commentary and a lot of verbiage that talks about sole discretion of the Department of Public Works and Zoning. It gives a lot of power for the decision-making on an aesthetic to someone's private property to the government versus the private homeowner being involved in that decision-making process. I don't believe that any legislation you pass that takes away a person's private home rights is wise. I also think, with all due respect to the lady sitting to my right who lives in a neighborhood that I couldn't dream to afford to live in, that the fines imposed on this legislation are really onerous to homeowners that are of middle-class means on fixed incomes that live in more modest communities, many of which, like Heritage, are affordable, that are in the under $500,000 range, that range from $300,000 to $400,000 in the purchase prices, and are purchased by working-class families, where this legislation will have a direct impact at a time when they're trying to recover from COVID. I urge you to consider carefully when you word something with little to no wiggle room that you are putting a tremendous financial burden on people trying to maintain their property. There's no carve-out in anything in this legislation as it's written for someone like me that is contributing by the sheer nature of the size of my lot and the tree canopy that I support. Is there anything in here to give me any exception or variance? So I'm supporting by what I have in the rear of my property more than what 10 homes in this community in Ward 5 and Ward 7. And Alderman Savage and I have been back and forth by email on this topic, and we can agree to disagree, but his community does not have this type of tree canopy to support. It's a very heavy maintenance burden. I have an estimate from several tree contractors for 2 trees in particular that are greater than the 23-inch, but not enormous, but are probably 100-year-old trees looming over my property. I've had an insurance claim for $17,000 for a roof replacement on an insurance claim because of the damage. Alderman Gay has been to my home. Alderman Schandelmeyer has been to my home. They know what I'm talking about. If you ask me to replace trees, I beg of you to tell me, where am I going to put them? Where do they go on my property? I'm engulfed by trees as it is. More than half my lot is treed. When you look at the schedule on your docket for projects that are currently underway, you have in total 33 current projects on this list of projects in the city that you have issued permits and variances and exceptions. 20 of these projects are mixed use or commercial or institutional. That's 61% of the actual projects that are currently underway that are commercial institutional use. Your problem with tree canopy is not the residential homeowner, not to the degree one would think. I do think that to say that people don't want trees, I would never have bought the property I own if I didn't love trees. I would be insane. So I like the trees. I just want to do routine maintenance and not be encumbered by the additional process that you're putting in place. I want to be able to have some freedom when it's damaging my home to remove it. And I don't think that what you have in first reader here reflects thoughtful legislation to reflect balance. What you have here is legislation that will have a heavy-handed approach to people that are middle class, just like me. If you didn't notice the uniform, I don't think nurses make a whole lot of money these days. So what you're doing is you're looking at things from the lens of trying to be reactionary to somebody being stupid and cutting down an old tree that is sad, and I would be upset about it too. But we can't approach legislative process in a reactionary fashion. We have to do it in a balanced fashion. And I urge you to consider this as you move forward, because there's a lot of variability in the wards. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And I can certainly appreciate that I wouldn't want to look out my window one day and find my tree canopy all gone. But there's a way to thread this needle that's balanced, thoughtful, respectful to everybody, including myself, and also doesn't create a heavy-handed approach where only the very wealthy living in million-dollar houses or better can afford to pay these fines. And believe me, they will. Unfortunately, the way this is written, you will not prevent a homeowner that wants to raise those trees out your window. There is nothing in here that will prevent that, because trust me, they will pay the $1,000 fine. They are taking that tree down. But people like me won't be able to, because I'm priced out of a maintenance project. I'm looking at $1,400 as the way you've legislated the fines, Rob, that I'm looking at $4,000 in a tree removal project for 2 trees that are literally destroying my property. And then you're going to charge me to remove those trees. I'm going to have to replace those trees. There's nowhere to put them. That means I have to pay the fees times 4 trees for each of those. That's a lot of money for me. That one project will be my entire tax bill for the year. That's heavy-handed from my point of view. I urge you to reconsider this legislation as it is and come up with something that is much more measured and balanced as you move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sandra.
Do you have any
Thank you.
questions?
It's just public testimony generally, so.
Anybody? Rob?
Alderman Savage?
I just want to say, thanks for coming out. I'm happy to hear concerns, but I do want to say that a lot of what you've addressed a lot of what you commented on is already addressed in the ordinance, and I don't think what you're saying is going to be a problem, but we'll look into it more when it gets to committee to make sure, but I just want to say what you're saying is not accurate in terms of what's actually in the ordinance. I'm happy to deal with that more in committee.
Well, but when you write something like this, and there's this much ambiguity and this much arbitrary control to the Department of Planning and Zoning, you're not making it clear. So you're creating something that you can't even enforce. What's the point? If the point is to protect tree canopy, let's write something that does that. What about tax credits for people that support greater than half their property as tree canopy? Have we thought of that? If what you want is tree canopy protection and improvement, you want to move from 42% to 50%, let's get there with a lot better legislative process than whatever this is. Because I can barely understand this, and I'm not the dumbest tool in the shed, but this is complicated. You've made this very confusing. You've written in a way where the average citizen doesn't understand what in the heck you've even written here. That's a problem. It is.
Thank you.
My question is for Mr. Lyles. Because she did raise one point that I hadn't noticed until I looked. It says a property owner may not remove a tree greater than 23 inches in diameter as measured at 4.5 feet above the ground or on private property or within a tree conservation area unless the city arborist has inspected the tree and finds that the tree. So how can we do that? I can see if it was in like a right of way or, public property, but if it's her land and the tree is clearly over a house and it presents an issue.
It's not written in a way that makes that clear to homeowners.
Yeah, but would she still have to pay the $1,000 fee?
That's not a fee, it's a fine.
I'm sorry, the fine. Okay. So there is no, and this is good. You have conversation, you clear it up, so it's not bad in the streets. So there is no fee. There's a fine if you cut down the tree without first having the arborist come out to see.
Alderman Savage.
Yeah, just to explain this, we currently have, this isn't quite the time to have a discussion about it, but what this would do is, so we currently have laws in place that require any tree that's in the front of a property within 50 feet of a public right-of-way, which is usually a street, and if it's 5 inches or over, that's a small tree, 5 inches or over, they have to get a permit to remove it. If it's a tree on a site that's an acre or larger, and they're clearing it as a part of a development project, they have to apply with the Forest Conservation. If it's a tree that's, I think it's 4 inches or greater, I have to look at Dr. Nash, in the critical area, anywhere in the critical area, you have to deal with that through permits. We've heard from staff that we're still experiencing some canopy loss, and that's because of the large canopy trees in the backyard. So what this would do is not say 5 inches. It chooses a large tree. It's not all the trees, just a large tree. You'd have to go and get a permit to remove it. And so
And pay you
again, they already
$100.
have to. I didn't interrupt you.
I'm sorry,
So
but-
please give me the
yeah.
courtesy.
I'm trying.
All right. So this would simply require that they have to get a permit to remove a large tree if they wanted to remove a large tree. Now the thing with a large tree, the permit fee I think is, Dr. Nash might know, but I think it's around $100 for a permit. You have to understand these large trees, the homeowner's not going to be taking them down themselves. They're huge trees that are going to cost thousands of dollars to remove by a certified arborist. The arborist would submit the permit to remove the tree and deal with all the paperwork, and they would have to get reviewed by our arborist. It would not prevent anybody from doing maintenance. If somebody wants to do maintenance on a tree, that you don't need a permit to do that. So this is just adding protection in terms of a large tree, having an arborist, city arborist verify whether or not it truly needs to come down. It gives the city arborist the ability to change the mitigation. If you can't find room on your property, the city arborist can deal with that, and planning and zoning can adjust that. So I think those address a lot of your concerns.
There's a fee associated with that, and according to what you wrote on here, I have to pay you. It's a lot of money. As this thing is written, it has a fee structure forcing me to pay the city to plant trees elsewhere for a tree that's damaging my house and I have nowhere else to plant.
So
It seems aggressive. And then we get into the Fifth Amendment, and we get into regulatory taking issues that are really tricky, and I'd hate for us to get into that problem. And I just urge you to consider carefully what we're doing here.
I think you make great points. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak on O33-21? So this is going to go to committees. There's time for input at committee and debate and ability to evolve. So I declare that public hearing on O-33-21 closed. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes. Yes, sir. Resolution 2321, tree removal on private property fines.
Same here. Could I get a motion? Sorry, not a motion, sorry. And no speakers on this. I think we've just spoken on it before. Same subject. I declare the public hearing on R-23-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next items are legislative actions, first reader. Next item is O-3521, acceptable forms of signature.
Is there a motion to adopt O-35-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's refer O-35-21 to Rules of City Government Committee and the Finance Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is R-2621, Maritime Task Force Strategy, Strengthening the Maritime Industry.
Is there a motion to adopt R-26-21 on first reader?
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
What is this?
Any discussion? Alderman Savage?
I just want to, if we have time, I'd like to just request that there's a public hearing associated with this. If there's no rush to getting this adopted, I think it'd be good to just.
I think there's one at the next council meeting. Is that right, Eileen? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Next item is second readers, 01321, Urban Renewal Projects Repeal.
So a motion to adopt O-13-21 on second reader.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And we have 1 and 2 Finlayson amendments. Would you like to move those, Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll move both of them together, if that's fine with you.
Yes, please. Yep.
The First Amendment deals with removing the use of the...
Can we get a second, please? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Please,
Should I speak
go
to
ahead.
them? The First Amendment deals with removing the term slum area from the legislation. Very negative connotation, and we felt there should be a better way, if needed, to describe an area other than a slum. Refresh my memory. On the Second Amendment, looking for my justification from the, is that all it does, the second one? Okay, so the second one is for consistency, and it removes the term slum from all areas of the code.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lee.
Okay, great. And Alderman Tierney has something to say. Alderman Gay. Alderman Tierney first.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say something about this legislation that I sponsored, if I may.
Yes, please.
And first, thank you, Alderwoman Finlayson, for deleting those words and for those amendments. But I just want to say I know that this is just words, but these codified words don't belong in our city code. Deleting them will not change the damage that they have done to our demographics and social fabric of our city, albeit all in the name of economic progress and historic preservation. We continue to address the inequities we created, and the inevitable question we continually challenge ourselves with is, how do we give back the city to those displaced? They say in 12-step programs, you can't move forward until you realize your wrongs, and this step does just that. So I thank you for your acknowledgement of this.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thanks. A number of things. First, as you mentioned, this is just words, and it'll never give back the economic empowerment and the sense of belonging that primarily African-American residents had felt previously and were robbed of. And so that's heartbreaking. And it sucks even more because I think that you're right, this is us acknowledging it, but are we really ever going to be able to make up for that? I don't see enough capital for Black and brown businesses here in the city of Annapolis. I don't see enough training courses. It's tough even for them to get the attention of bankers and stuff. I'm going through a process right now with a constituent who's trying to open up a business. And it's a struggle for Black and brown people. It really is. And so it's heartbreaking that this happened. I think that there are things that could be done, starting with the county and them demolishing that garage and giving that land back to the individual families that they've robbed it from. Is useless. And I think that the community there was vibrant previously. I'm obviously not old enough to have lived it, but I've heard these stories. I I do have concerns of removing this from the code, because one of the beautiful things about urban renewal now is that there are many grants and opportunities available for reverse urban renewal, where they are using the code to their advantage and helping those primarily Black and brown communities. And so I think that's something to be looked into. I don't know if the Office of Law has looked into that, because this is just a resolution expressing how we feel. But maybe that's something to look into. Maybe we can really do something and potentially try to assist those families that have been wronged. Yeah, that's my...
Thank you. Alderman Chenemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple things. One, I don't know if I misremembered this, but I believe I was a co-sponsor of it during our Economic Matters Committee hearing, and I'm missing from the second reader, so if we could please. I don't know if I forgot to say this during Economic Matters and I'm just misremembering it, but I asked to be a co-sponsor of this one. Cool, thank you. Second, it's kind of a running joke for how much disdain I have for parking in a city. And urban renewal in Annapolis is a good example why. We destroyed a thriving Black community in the old Fourth Ward for car storage. That is what these projects do. I did share some of your concerns with, if we got rid of this, it could potentially impact some redevelopment projects that could provide those moments of equality. Dr. Nash said she does not think it would. And are we talking on the amendments yet, Mr. Mayor, or should I end my...
I think this is the amendments on the floor.
Okay, these are the amendments on the floor. I do believe, though, with these amendments deleting certain definitions, there was potential risk of funding cuts or something from housing and urban development or from the feds. Am I misremembering that, or?
Dr. Nash?
Good evening. No, you are not misremembering, but after that meeting, we double-checked with our HUD representatives, and they assured us we were covered with the language that is in the ordinance that the Office of Law made sure to include, so we are covered.
And is that covered with the amendments that delete the definition of slum area?
Yes, we checked that too.
Okay, cool. In that case, there is no reason to oppose these amendments.
Thank you. Alderman Gay has his hand up again.
I have a question about the Spa Road land. So what's the process of, I guess what would be eminent domain for the city saying, we want this land, well, we already own the land, so not eminent domain, but what's the process for us just saying, this has to be for affordable housing and that's it, point blank period across the line? How do we go about that? Maybe that's for the city attorney.
I don't really understand your question.
So there is a piece of land on where the old Public Works building used to be. And they've been saying that it needs to go through remediation for the last 2 years. Once it gets to that process, it can be developed. How can this body or the next body assure that that land is only being used to develop affordable housing?
Well, the city still owns it. The city can determine what it wants to do with the property. Of course, the city will have to have money in order to develop it for housing, and housing is very expensive. And typically, in urban areas, affordable housing has been placed in areas that had remediation problems. But not sure that you want to go in that direction with this property, even if it's remediated. There are likely to be problems.
Even if it's in like a public-private partnership where we own the land, we bring in developers to contribute to the project. I guess my fear is that, and I appreciate the Alderwoman from Ward 1 for mentioning this, you know, a way to remedy what we've done is to help those families and their ancestors, and their kin who are still, till this day, living in public housing. How do we address that? Because what I'm afraid of is once we get to that Spa Road project, somebody will come up with some, you know, idea for I don't even know, a train and a Ferris wheel or something, and then we lose that. So how do we lock that down so that it's housing?
I'll get to.
Can't we use
Mr.
this
City
code
Manager.
technically to build housing?
I'll get the city manager, you can clarify that. This is probably not related, but I promise you, there's no Ferris wheels.
Yeah, so Public Works is still using that property, so until the new building on Hudson Street is completed, they'll need to use it, but only the council can approve the disposition of a property. So if it's disposed of, the council has to approve that. If the council chooses to do a P3, then we would do a P3. So the staff is going to take guidance from the council on what we do with that property once it's no longer needed for Public Works.
Okay.
It's zone residential.
So we have the amendments O-13-21 have a first and a second. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Is there a motion to vote on whether this is substantive? Is there a motion to adopt O-13-21 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-13-21 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Can I get a second? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson? Aye. Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
No.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-2121, Public Ethics Statement of Compliance, for the purpose of repealing the requirement to file a separate statement of compliance for certain individuals.
Can I get a motion to adopt O-21?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-21-21 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandelmeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R-2521, Position Classifications Amendments.
Is there a motion to adopt R-25-21 on second reader?
So moved.
To get a second, please. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do we need a roll call on that?
Yes,
Sorry.
sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney? Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandelmeyer's out of the room. Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The agenda is completed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I want to welcome everyone back. Is there anything else for good order?
When is the last meeting?
October the 25th.
And that's it for the year, right?
That's it for, yes. And campaign fund reports are due tomorrow.
Yes.
Campaign fund reports are due tomorrow by 4:30.
And I think this is a good time for Alderman Tierney to talk about her Rambo moment at City Dock.
Oh, yeah, our show and
Bruce Willis
tell.
moment.
Yeah, in case you missed it, we had a demonstration at City Dock by the National, is Chief Romelli here? We had a trailer where divided in half, what would happen if if it wasn't sprinkled versus sprinkled, and they had the furniture and everything set up, and the fire department was on duty to make sure they put the fire out, and the the devastation it caused without sprinklers was just unbelievable, and the heat. Remember, Mayor Buckley was there, and from that demonstration, Director Dickinson, I think you're going to be getting 2 or 3 inquiries about the sprinkler fund. So that was the objective. We have money in the sprinkler fund and it's underutilized, so this caught some attention, so thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
I have 2 quick questions. One, the first is, God, it was for Jody. It was so important too.
Okay, what about the second one?
They're both about funds too. The first or the second one I know for sure was about the 3% that we received. You said it'd be here in October, so that means that we can roll that program out in November.
So you're talking about the 3% that we're going to take from our occupancy taxes and put in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And yes, so that would be in effect for the first quarter of this fiscal year, which ends at the end of September. So we wait, the occupancy taxes come in monthly, so they'll be funneling in through the month of October. So I assume that that 3% will be accumulated and calculated about November sometime.
Awesome.
So that would be the first deposit into the fund.
That's good, and that for everybody, that's where we got 3% from the state to use for affordable housing. And so we'll set up a meeting. Lennox coordinate that. We'll get the application and all of that stuff together, and then the residents will be able to apply for funds to assist with their rent and stuff. So that's huge, and we can start that in November.
So I don't believe any formal programs have been developed.
No, not yet.
Okay,
We're still,
so
we haven't.
That's separate from the accumulation of the funds. You'll have to develop the programs you want to use those funds.
Second, once that $152,000 from this lease agreement is, you said it's going to the parking fund. Can dollars from the parking fund be used to supplement, purchases like for example, if we wanted to invest in, upgrading our transit system, can those dollars be taken from the parking fund?
So the parking fund already does an annual subsidy to the transportation fund out of its revenues.
Can this $152,000 be added to that?
Instead of affordable housing? Is it?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying from their lease agreement, the dollar.
From the lease agreements, we
Yeah.
added to, it is going into the parking fund. The parking fund revenues can be used for whatever we decide. Now, I would urge caution, since we're shutting down Hillman mid-year, and the parking revenues from Hillman will no longer be flowing into the parking fund, so we're going to want to wait and see what those amounts look like before we start programming funds for other purposes.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
I'll be watching closely.
Alderman Payon, I want to congratulate Jody on the excellent work she has done with our financing to get the city to AA+, the highest.
I'll say it again, I'm just implementing the policies that everybody here has put into effect.
Thank you. And I also want to say on Tuesday, it is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, it's going to be some of the city council's general election. I wanted to say that it's been an honor for all of us to work together. I feel privileged to have worked with any of you. Everybody, good luck in those elections in about a week from now. Thank you all. So,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I truly mean that. Alderman Payon.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
No, I think when